welcome back to section 1, and we enter straight into our segment called the deposition.
Deposition, Stefan, we're dealing with that very, very hot topic that is happening in our criminal justice system, our justice system as a whole.
As a whole, correct.
Where we're being forced to use virtual trials, virtual interaction with the courts, whether or not that is prejudicing clients, whether that is prejudicing the public in accessing justice.
Yeah, someone said that the magistracy on a whole has come to a grinding halt. I saw some of the commentators saying that because some of the trials just simply aren't going on.
In fact, as we said in a previous program, we have a judge who has actually come out and said, look,
a civil judge.
A civil judge. It's difficult to conduct trials with this issue. And the issue has been, they've received comments throughout society.
Yeah. Now we have two young, prominent practitioners, colleagues. And Mr. Singh, Mr. Suneesh Singh, and Ms. Renuka Rambhajan.
Guys, are you there?
Are you there?
We're not hearing you. Maybe you could, Suneesh, Mr. Singh, are you there?
Kyle, are you hearing me?
Yeah,
yes,
we're hearing you, yes.
Renuka, are you there?
Are you hearing me?
Yes,
we're hearing you.
We're hearing you fine.
Hi, guys.
Hi, how are you going?
Guys. So, you all know right now, I mean, you would probably know better than us. It's been a cataclysmic shift in the way we do business, in the way we go to court, in the way we conduct our trade as lawyers. We want to get your guys' perspective. Maybe we could start with you, Renuka. You do a lot of matters in the high court trials. What has your experience been like?
Well, it has been very difficult because one of the main things in a criminal trial is contact with your client.
Right.
And you have a circumstance now where your clients are being brought to the court virtually and you are in another room. So the physical aspect of getting immediate instructions from your client, you lose that immediately. So there's a difficult connect between you and your client. Yeah. Then there is a difficulty in connecting sometimes with the court because the court is of the view if your client is in prison or on bail, they should have access to a phone, a computer, internet, and would therefore be able to attend to the virtual trial. But that's not always the reality. I have had instances, I do a lot of legal aid matters. So these are persons who are already suffering from not being able to afford an attorney.
Renuka, your volume seems to be a bit low on the lower side. I don't know if you could adjust on your side.
I apologize. Is
That's
that better?
Okay. We're hearing you, but we're just not hearing you too loudly.
All right. Is that better now?
Yeah,
that is better. Yeah, go ahead from there. Yeah.
All right, great. My apologies. Yes, what I was saying is, you have a lot of clients who do not have access to the internet and they simply don't have a computer or phone. Right. They have no choice but to come to your office for the hearing. And then sometimes the way the links are sent, they're sitting there for hours, waiting for 5 minutes, and they don't understand the disconnect between what they're accustomed to, which is physically appearing before a judge or a magistrate, to this very artificial process. So there has been some teething problems I have experienced.
Yeah, Suneesh, let's get your perspective. Maybe you could come in there. What has your experience been like?
Well, certainly what I can say is the current system for electronic hearings and electronic filings are geared towards the benefit of attorneys.
Right.
As Renuka has correctly pointed out, the average Joe, your common man on the street, your man on the Clapham omnibus, so to speak, does not have the resources and in certain cases may not have an attorney who has great contact with the court as a result of the electronic hearing.
Yeah.
Now, despite the problems, and I certainly say that now we are going through the growing pains of an electronic hearing, I certainly see the benefits.
Correct.
For as any practitioner and any practitioner in the magistrate's court, you know that communicating with the court on behalf of your client is almost impossible. You have to call a phone number with hopes that a person answers it, and then they transfer your call to the relevant court, so that for example, if you need to address an issue with the magistrate, that you're not sitting behind your phone for hours.
So
every GSO has an email address.
Yeah.
Every GSO has a personal contact number.
So
unfortunate thing is,
you see that the technology is actually improving practice to some extent because it is assisting
Yes.
probably smoother flow of information and court schedules.
Yes, certainly, because if you can communicate directly, and as you gentlemen know,
Yeah.
the easiest way to reach a judge is through their GSO.
Yeah.
If you want to make any application ahead of the court matter,
Right.
and now magistrates have their own GSOs, and that facility is available.
Right.
But unfortunately, it's only available to attorneys because
Yeah.
regular citizens who are not represented by counsel, or two, do not have the access to an email or a computer,
Yeah.
are just having to go to the court physically if they can, stand outside and try and see what's happening with their matter.
Yeah. Renuka, well, Suneesh has raised a very interesting point there. Yes, there is the downside, but also the technology. I mean, we as lawyers know you would sometimes have to leave your office to go down to court for an hour for sometimes a 5-minute hearing.
Discussion. So there is
obvious
benefits.
You also seen some benefits as well?
No, absolutely. In my practice, I have sometimes 3 to 4 hearings a day before COVID. So I would find myself driving to San Fernando, sometimes from San Fernando back to Chaguanas, then to Port of Spain.
Yeah.
And as we all know, roads are not always very friendly.
Yeah.
So the convenience of sitting at your computer and being able to attend multiple hearings, that has been an absolute benefit, I think, not only to me, but practitioners across the board.
We have
If it is that, as Suneesh said, we're going through growing pains, if we get it right, this can absolutely work.
We have said it before here,
work across the board.
Yeah,
civil and criminal
we have
matters.
said it here from at least the civil aspect of things. The technology has been in some ways a blessing for attorneys and for clients, because what has happened is that we could at least the access to justice a little bit better now.
Yeah.
In terms of us getting communications with the court, as Suneesh would have indicated, a big thing for the magistracy is the GSOs, which was an amazing thing to put forward, an amazing thing, because what happens now is that I could telephone a GSO or email them directly if I have an issue, and there is that constant communication. But then there is that downfall for the regular person. They do not have that communication.
But guys, I mean, inequity aside, I mean, because yes, lawyers are benefiting, but ordinary clients might have difficulty in the procedural steps. But we all know, and most people who litigate know, procedure is one part of it.
Yeah.
Getting down to the actual trial, because that is what ultimately the pinnacle of the court is. It's either you're, in the case of criminal matters, you're innocent or guilty, or in the case of civil matters, you win your claim or you have your claim dismissed.
Yeah. And as some people would have indicated, the magistracy has come to a halt in terms of trials. No trials are going on, and people aren't able to access that.
Renuka, what is your experience? Have you done any trials, or have you seen trials take place virtually, and do you think it's effective?
Well, in the criminal matters, remember, we now have the option of judge-only trials.
Right.
Perhaps the better option for the virtual trial would be a judge-only trial, because you don't have to deal with a jury. I personally am involved right now with a trial before Justice Rambhajan that is continuing tomorrow virtually. And the way the system works, my client is in prison, a link is sent, and he's observing everything just as we are right now. I am on the other link, the state is on the other link, and then the judge is there. I was very pleased to say that during the course of the trial, technology was used where we had to put a document into the hands of the witness, that the judge was able to share her screen, and we were all able to look at the document at the same time. So that's what I'm saying, it can be very beneficial.
Yeah.
Trial by jury, however, I do see that may be problematic, because you will have you have to connect with 9 or 12 people over a screen.
Yeah.
That is going to be very difficult when your art form is persuasion.
Yes.
You know, it's difficult to do that without having that physical contact. But the judge-only trials have been moving along. I know that Justice Rambhajan is doing one with me, and I know that Justice Gonzalez is doing another. So it's moving along, and like we said, every trial is going to be a learning experience, I anticipate.
Suneesh?
Suneesh, I mean, you do a lot of cross-examination in your practice. Do you foresee, or have you had to cross-examine virtually, or do you see the virtual system affecting your ability to cross-examine and put your witnesses, put your client's case to the prosecution and the witnesses?
Well, Kyle, as you know, we're very animated when we cross-examine. So I think as it relates to the body language of a witness is something that any advocate on his or her legs, because as you know, you think very much on your feet.
Yeah.
And an element is certainly lost with the virtual trials.
Yeah.
Thus far, I've had a lot of my trials vacated in the magistracy simply because, one, I think the magistrates themselves do not know how to best conduct criminal trials.
Right.
And secondly, well, unfortunately, at the magistracy level, it seems they're not very persuasive when it comes to the policy decision with the DPP and how they bring their witnesses to court.
Right, right. So there's a hiccup in the system because of the virtual platform.
The virtual platform. I believe I've had a few matters, well, that are just waiting for a trial date that just cannot get started.
Yeah.
Simply because the virtual hearing is highly prejudicial to my clients.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Renuka, you were once a prosecutor. I know you would have gone up against Suneesh probably a few times. From the prosecutorial sort of perspective, do you see difficulties for a prosecution, conducting an effective prosecution because of this virtual platform? I mean, I know that you would have to brief a lot of witnesses, you would have to go through evidence, you would have to tender a lot of evidence. It's much easier sometimes for the defense lawyer to simply sit back and criticize your work. So tell us from the probably the prosecution perspective, is it difficult? Or do you think
it will be? It will be. I mean, on an ordinary day, back when I was a prosecutor, doing a trial was difficult because it was such a dynamic experience. You would plan for certain things, and then things would happen that would completely throw your plan off course.
Yeah.
A witness might not show up.
Yeah.
A witness might decide he does not want to give the evidence. Or a witness may turn hostile in the box and start to give evidence contrary to what is on a statement.
Right.
At that point, you are physically required to confront them with their statement.
Right.
Yeah.
As a prosecutor, you will then have the barrier of this virtual trial of being unable to do certain things. I do know that the DPP has taken somewhat of a position that they do not wish to cross-examine accused persons virtually.
Yes.
But you know, they themselves are trying to tweak how best exactly to deal with it. The judiciary has responded by creating a space in King's Court where a person is supposed to appear and the marshal is present when the person is given evidence, regardless of whether it's an accused or a witness. But you have that problem of being able to fully cross-examine, to confront the witness. I mean, sometimes in a trial, it is such a living, breathing thing. You might ask the judge to allow someone to come into the court and challenge the witness and say, do you know this person?
Yeah.
You can't do it virtually,
You can't
see?
do it, yeah.
Yeah.
There are actual physical, not physical in terms of the infrastructure, as well as in the procedural process. I can see difficulties on both the prosecutorial side as well as the defense side.
Yeah, well, of course, you lose that element of showmanship that lawyers...
As Suneesh would have alluded to.
Well,
yeah, Suneesh would have alluded to that.
Well,
Every lawyer loves to parade a little bit.
Especially
I mean,
in
that robe
cross-examination.
is meant to, you know, when you put on that robe and the bands, there's a reason that you wear it and you fling it, and there's emphasis, there's theater, there's drama.
Yeah.
There's very little you can do on a computer screen when that
especially sitting down with your robes. You really can't have that level of
Well, guys,
showmanship.
experience and criticism is one thing. Suneesh, do you have any maybe if you could provide a suggestion? Do you see any way forward, any solution, any suggestion that you would like to put forward that would improve this entire system?
Well, listening to Dr. Sohan earlier who called in, we know definitely that COVID-19 is going to be here for a while.
Yeah.
And the electronic systems work specifically for case management.
Right.
But I think once the court manages its timetables, we can resume in-person hearings.
Right.
Because as you all know, what takes up a lot of space in a court and why courts are very much packed is that they're just simply doing case management. They're
Several
dealing
matters.
with issues
Exactly.
of disclosure. They're dealing with how far is the prosecution's case reached in terms of this witness statements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you spend your entire morning dealing with case management, and then you set an afternoon for one case to try one case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't see why it is that if the case management is done virtually, then afternoons can be set just for defense counsel, prosecuting counsel. In a full empty court, you have
Yeah.
maybe your one or two defendants and your one or two witnesses.
But what you could do is also schedule the witnesses to come in. So you have certain times
Yes.
where you schedule it, and then that way you adhere to the different social protocols.
Yes.
The social
Well,
distancing
lawyers
protocols.
live by schedule. We know when all our matters are. We have our time set
Yes.
out. We get our emails from the GSOs. And
Well, some of us are better at schedules than others. But basically, what you're doing is calling for a hybrid system,
Yes.
right?
precisely, and that is what I think going forward it's going to be. It is going to be a hybrid system.
Yes.
It's
All of
just
us
that
would have
why
all
can't
of us
we
would have
adopt it now?
benefited. All of us would have benefited thus far with in terms of the case management system. And we have said
Yes.
this last week that it has been an amazing experience, because in terms of us in the civil arena and you guys in the criminal arena, it has sped up a lot. Even in some of the appeals that me and Kyle has done, some of the judges has praised it, because it has a way now in terms of reducing their docket size and doing what they have to do in a very efficient manner.
Yeah.
But I appreciate Sunish's suggestion, because if you have that scheduling, especially in the afternoon, you have in the morning, you have the case management conferences, but you schedule when a witness has to come in. That's a very good idea.
Yeah.
Hopefully those in power seeing what they have to do in the judiciary, and they can implement something very similar.
Renuka,
what do you think?
you see any solution like that?
I agree with Suneesh 100%. I think that it is fairly obvious that COVID is going to be around for a while.
Yeah.
The wheels of justice cannot stop turning.
Correct.
You know, I think there is an equal responsibility on attorneys to explain this new process and this hybrid that Suneesh is suggesting. I think that for case management, all of the preliminary issues pre-trial, you could deal with that virtually, and you use your scheduling. It's very efficient. And the trial process, when it comes to criminal trials, you can still do the judge-only trial virtually. But I think it is inevitable. We are going to have to find a way to get trial by jury off the ground as well. We
Yeah.
can't just sit here and say COVID is around, because you have people sitting in prison, and we are in the comfort of sitting behind a computer screen,
Yeah.
in the comfort of our home. These are people who are innocent until proven guilty, and we cannot ever lose sight of that.
That is
So
the
the
point.
sooner the authorities streamline the process
Yeah.
when it comes to judge only, trial by jury, case management hearings, and there are clear policy decisions, I think all counsel across the board, civil and criminal, will be able to adapt their practice to suit, and it could be successful for all the stakeholders.
Yep.
I think so.
I think that's a good place to leave it, guys. Thank you very much for taking
Thanks for
time off
having
on a
us.
Sunday to assist us in understanding this issue.
You're very welcome.
All right, guys.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Well,
Two young prominent criminal
yeah,
attorneys.
interesting views. Actually, I thought that we were just going to bash it, but then Suneesh threw a nice spin on it, which is something we also discussed. That look,
Yeah.
there are benefits to technology. COVID is here to stay, and you know, one of the things we should try to do is make the best out of a bad situation.
Yeah.
And if we could improve efficiency, if we could improve the way we conduct our the procedural part of court, which really eats up a lot of time,
Yeah.
you could actually see a justice system that starts to move and function a lot better.
And it has. It really has. And I put a lot of praise in the judiciary, the administration, for implementing this, and how efficiently they implemented it. When
Yeah.
COVID happened in March and the lockdown happened, it was done very quickly.
Yeah.
And the administration put things in place, the judiciary put things in place, and the court system was able to, at least I'm talking from the civil aspect, get back and up and running in terms of the case management conferences.
Yeah, I mean, we know that there were some judges who were already better with technology.
Yeah.
And I think some judges were just waiting on the opportunity to start using
Yeah.
the technology more and more in the courts.
Yeah.
And it's really, you know, extricated our judiciary from a type of antiquated system where, You had to physically always attend. You had to physically present documents. You physically had to go to court to say things that an email could have solved.
Correct.
It also encourages a lot more collaboration between lawyers.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, if we are doing a case against each other, we no longer have to really go to court to discuss with the judge a timetable. I could email you and say, look, Stefan, I think we should file witness statements X date. We should file these documents on another date and appear before the judge for trial direction.
And as Renuka would have stated, it's incumbent upon the attorneys now to explain this
Yeah,
to the
to the clients, yeah.
And I mean, I could talk from experience. When there was that entire shutdown essentially and nothing was going on, clients just want their case heard in court.
Yeah.
And it's good now to have the virtual system there.
But it would be remiss of us not to say that, look, the justice system and the judicial system isn't like any other ordinary service.
I agree.
It's part of the rule of law. It's part of our very democracy. And you can't alienate people from the process. So while we as lawyers are happy to sit back and let the technology take place and only devote our time and energy to trials and to more significant things, think about the ordinary litigant
who's not able to access this
he has
technology.
one case. He has one case that affects probably the rest of his life.
Correct.
He would want to ensure that every time that matter comes up before the judge, he is there. He's observing what is going on because he wants to be part of a process that could potentially affect his life. I mean, both civilly and criminally.
Correct. And that is the point.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is hopefully some of those in authority are seeing that.
Yeah.
Well,
we know there's a large Section 1 fan base, so that I'm sure that message is getting out.
So hopefully, and Suneesh made some good recommendations.
Excellent recommendations.
What we will do is we'll take a short break and we'll get back to our favorite segment, the soapbox.
Soapbox.